Yoo-hoo folks, this week on The Doctor is In, we're going to be going over ambulance operations. I'll be your host, Brandon McCullough, along with my cohort, Firefighter Barry. This video is designed to give us a clear and practical look of how our ambulances work, what's expected of our drivers, and what FD regulations we need to follow to uphold those rules and standards, specifically FD Regulation 108 Revision 9. This is not to say that firefighters will routinely be operating ambulances. However, certain situations may call for it. So let's get a clear understanding of how these vehicles operate. First, let's talk about how ambulance is handled. Just because the cab looks like a pickup truck does not mean it operates like one. Ambulances are much taller and top heavy, making them unstable, and even slightly aggressive maneuvers can throw them off balance with their higher center of gravity. These ambulances start like a normal vehicle. Using a key, there is no battery switch on most of them. As you'll notice, you've got your switch panel down here, which is very common to most of the switch panels on our fire engines. There is an emergency master switch, which gives you power to everything you need. You've got your primary for your lights, and then you've got an array of switches that control everything from your floodlights to your dome lights and your master modules, which is like your load manager on a fire truck. You've got your radio. We all know that there's a lot of changes coming to our radios as we've gone through and the field training groups have passed. The sirens work the same as they would in a fire truck. Power is given here. This particular ambulance does not have hands-free on the horn. Some of them are equipped with them, but there is a switch for the manual siren here. There's a PA, and there's a horn when you have power. If you'll notice under the rear view mirror, some of these units are equipped with cameras. Act accordingly as if you were on a police body camera. Don't say or do anything that you wouldn't want broadcast on the news. These vehicles record similar stats as our fire trucks as far as speed, braking, and G-force. You'll notice on some of these units they're equipped with automatic raising and lowering systems. These systems should be automatic, but we all know how things that should be work. There is a manual override on them where you can manually lower them or raise them. Just ensure that you're at the proper drive height before you transport any patients or drive the vehicle. Again, while these ambulances should automatically lower for you for patient unloading and loading, that doesn't always work. There is a manual override switch in the back that will allow this. Both doors do need to be open in order for the ambulance to drop, for you to safely unload the stretcher. On most ambulances, you do have to raise up the tailboard in order to get the stretcher out and deploy it normally. If you'll watch, when the tailboard is down, you'll have an obstruction on the way down with your stretcher. On most stretchers, there's a button that will release. Some of them don't work, including this one. There's also switches up front to help you deploy the stretcher from the ambulance, which are located here. In some cases, this arm does not drop all the way. If you'll look at the side of the carriage for the stretcher, there are buttons that will help you raise and lower this arm. And now, when you're ready to reload the stretcher, push back into the carriage and ensure both of your yellow lights turn green. Once you have two green lights, you'll press the minus button or the smaller button if the symbols are worn off on the stretcher to raise the carriage of the stretcher and load back into the ambulance. Okay. If you'll notice on the outside of your ambulance, you have numerous compartments. This ambulance isn't fully equipped yet, but as with our fire trucks, there's several different models of ambulances that are on the streets right now with several different layouts. It would be prudent for you, if you have an ambulance that is staged at your station, to go over it, or on a non-urgent call to go over where things are commonly placed within the ambulance so you can quickly and effectively deliver patient care. Things like your backboards, stair chairs, scoop stretchers, and other medical devices are located in these external compartments as well as the internal compartments. Now that we've kind of gone over the compartments on the outside, let's take a look inside the ambulance. Once inside the back of the box, you'll notice that there are several internal compartments that house most of your medical supplies. Again, the layout of the ambulances is going to be different from ambulance to ambulance, so it does make sense to go through the ambulances and take some time to figure out where the equipment is, although it is not directly the role of the dual role firefighter. If you'll look to the action area, you'll notice a switch panel that contains all the switches that control various electronics and equipment in the back of the ambulance. One of the most important switches is the module master switch. Turning that on and off, as you can see, kills all your power. And there's also your vacuum switch, which controls the pump that controls your vacuum or your suction unit for your patients. Over here is where you will increase that suction power for those patients if needed. And this is also where your climate controls are, as well as the rest of the lights in the back of the ambulance. You'll also notice behind me on the action wall that there is a radio back here as well. There is also a PA system up front that allows the driver to talk to the providers in the back. While it is mainly the responsibility of the single role EMS provider to know the inside and outside of this ambulance, it is the responsibility of all providers to understand where equipment is, as familiarity in these areas saves time, which saves lives. While in the back of the ambulance, anybody that's not providing direct patient care must be belted in per FD Regulation 108. Even those that are providing patient care are expected to use some level of restraint when at all possible. So let's touch back on clearance issues and operation of the ambulance itself. Ambulances, as you can see, are big and tall, and they're not welcome everywhere. Certain places like nursing homes, apartments with overhangs, your bay doors at the station, and facilities that have parking garages are areas that can cause issues with driving an ambulance. On that note, per FD 108 R9, all persons not acting directly with patient care or involved in other fireground activities are to act as backers when the vehicle is in a reverse motion, and in certain cases in forward motion where clearance issues are an issue. Where clearance is an issue. The Fort Worth Fire Department has two official response modes. Emergency mode, which is lights and sirens on, and non-emergency mode, which is no lights, no sirens, where all traffic laws must be obeyed. Speaking of traffic laws, ambulances and all FWFD vehicles in emergency mode are only permitted to travel 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, and anytime they are going into a lane of opposing traffic, the maximum speed they are allowed to travel is 20 miles per hour. When possible, always try to pass in the left-hand lane, as other drivers are supposed to pull right for ambulances and fire trucks and all emergency vehicles. We all know that doesn't always happen. If possible, come to a full stop at all intersections or when entering other lanes of oncoming traffic, and do not force anybody into an intersection with your lights and sirens if there's no lane of passage available. Turn your lights and sirens off and wait for the light to turn green, and then make your way through the intersection. Let's talk about water hazards. Just because an ambulance has a high profile does not make it a high profile vehicle. High profile vehicles are designed with bigger tires and with their air and exhaust intakes and outlets raised higher as well. The air intake and exhaust is at standard vehicle height on these, and you can easily flood one of these out. Not to mention there is danger in driving a vehicle into moving or standing water. Per FD Regulation 108 Revision 9, the safe passage height of water is to be no higher than the bottom of the tire from the bottom of the tire to the wheel itself. The only exception to this is if a life is truly at risk. Again, use your judiciation on driving through moving or standing high water.
Strategery.
Again, this video is just designed to be a basic overview of ambulance operations and to remind you to review FD Regulation 108 Revision 9. Not following our department regulations and rules or following traffic laws set forth by the state of Texas can result in departmental discipline, civil and or criminal civil penalties, and even criminal charges.